Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we should be live. Let me just make sure. Okay, does it say live on your end? Because I think we're live.
It does say live on Facebook, but I'm looking on Facebook and we're not up yet. Does that make sense?
Are you on the Escondido?
Escondido Public Library.
It usually takes about 30 seconds to a minute, I think, for it to click over.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of a delay. Let me look on my phone.
No, I'm checking there.
I see our little beautiful faces on the phone, so I think we're up.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't go down.
It's okay. Okay, so I'll start. Hello, welcome to the Escondido Public Library Virtual Author Chat Series. Today's chat is sponsored by the Friends of the Escondido Public Library and Sleeping Bear Press. I hope I said that right, because I just realized I might not have. Is it Sleeping Bear Press?
It is Sleeping Bear Press.
Okay.
Got it.
For a moment, I was like, wait, is it a dog or is it a bear? Okay. Sleeping Bear Press. I don't want the wrong animal. We are your hosts for today. I'm Jessica Buck.
And I'm Dan Wood. I work over in the Youth Services Department at the Escondido Public Library, and we're joined by author Virginia Loh-Hagan today. I'm going to give you a little information about her. Dr. Virginia Loh-Hagan is the faculty director of the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Resource Center at San Diego State University. Previously, she served as a faculty member of SDSU College's Education of Education, where she directed the Liberal Studies program, coordinated several international travel abroad programs, led teaching credential programs, coordinated clinical practice and ED TPA efforts, and taught various courses in education and literacy. Prior to working at SDSU, she was a K-8 classroom teacher. She has authored over 300 books and lives in Escondido with her low-maintenance husband and her high-maintenance dogs. Really fun fact about Virginia, she has served on the Escondido Board of Trustees for the library. So, yay. So quite the background.
And I'm a huge fan of Escondido Library.
Oh, she really, really is. We met a couple of years ago doing a program, and it's been wonderful ever since.
Yes, so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just so the viewers know that after the live reading will be the Q&A, and we will be monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions about anything you hear or questions for the author, just plop those in there and we will try to get to those when we can. We'll also have some questions for you and some trivia questions so that you have a chance to win one of the 3 free copies of T is for Thor that we're giving away today. Yeah, that's about it. So let's just have fun and just kind of get right into it.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to do some story time, and as Jessica said, questions afterwards. So we're going to hand it over to Virginia to read our story, then we'll roll into the Q&A.
Sure. All right, here we go. So this is this should be a really special event because this is actually going to be the first time that I have read it since it got published. So we're all gonna participate in this journey together. But this is T is for Thor, a Norse mythology alphabet book. And just to mention too, I also have a whole series on Norse gods and goddesses from my 45th Parallel Press, which is also part of Sleeping Bear, and it's an imprint that's part of Sleeping Bear and Cherry Lake that is devoted to older struggling readers. So that's kind of where we started. I had a lot of research that I had done for that first series, and then I used that research and then a lot more in order to do this book. So anyways, this is T is for Thor, and we'll start with the beautiful end pages, and then you'll see that you also have a glossary here because we know that there's a lot of Norse words and names, etc. So they're right here for easy reference. So we'll go ahead and start. And I also wanted to share that for the alphabet book, for all the pages, there's a poem that has the alphabet and also nonfiction text over here that talks about more in depth what the topic is. For today's reading, I will not be reading the nonfiction text, but I will be reading the poems. And if you want to read more about it, then buy T is for Thor, which is available at all places where books are sold. So here we go. So A is for Asgard. Filled with fields of green and castles of gold, Asgard was home to the strong and the bold. And I want to give kudos before I forget to the illustrator, Torstein Nordstrand, who actually lives in Norway. So that's pretty cool. But he did these wonderful illustrations. So I think, just look at that, right? So anyways, I want to give lots of kudos to Torstein for his wonderful work. So B is for Bifrost, spanning the worlds of gods, giants, and men. Bifrost the Rainbow Bridge with Heimdall's to defend. And I know how I have a student who is, his favorite character is Heimdall. And I know that he had said that he was coming to today's event. So there's Heimdall for you. C is for creation myth. From fire and ice and one little spark, a frost giant was born, bringing life from the dark. This is a real skill to turn pages on Zoom. Kudos to all the authors that have done this. Okay. D is for dwarfs. As craftsmen, dwarf skills were second to none. Using one of their swords, many battles were won. And E is for Elevagar. Elevagar rivers were filled with venomous snakes. To swim in these waters would be a deadly mistake. I'm sorry. I'm just enthralled with these illustrations. I feel like I'm looking at them for the first time myself. I mean, I haven't. I've seen the illustrations, but it's really cool. It's really exciting. Okay, F is for Freya and Frey. With her cape of feathers, Freya fought and flew. With Frey's magical ship, good winds always blew. G is for giants and gods. Norse gods and giants were formidable foes until the gods conquered the giants. So the story goes. H is for Hall. Brave warriors often died in war, and in Valhalla, their glory was sure. I is for Idun. Humans aged in age, growing old and gray, but Idun's apples stopped the gods' decay. J is for the journey of life and death. After starting one's journey to the realm of the dead, Norse afterlife was based on the life one led. K is for knowledge. Mimir gains knowledge from a special well, but only to Odin his secrets he would tell. L is for Loki. Sly Loki played trick after trick. To beat him, gods had to be clever and quick. M is for mistletoe. Loki turned a little mistletoe into a deadly dart, causing the end of the world when it pierced Baldur's heart. N is for Norns. 3 magical Norns spin and weave, controlling fates that none can leave. And then, of course, we have O is for Odin. Wise, one-eyed Odin was the All-Father. He was god of war and lord of Valhalla. Then we have P is for prose Edda and poetic Edda. In the prose and poetic Edda, Norse myths were written down. Before then, these stories were told from town to town. Q is for the Queen of Asgard. As wife and mother, Frigg was generous and kind. As a goddess and queen, she knew her own mind. R is for Ragnarok. Gods and giants and monsters who were doomed to die fought as foretold, even as flames filled the sky. And S is for Suitor. Setting the realms ablaze with the sword of fire, Suitor turned the Norse world into a funeral pyre. And then, of course, the Mr. Title himself, T is for Thor. Of all the Norse gods, Thor is the most known. Nothing can stop him once his hammer is thrown. U is for underworld creatures. Monsters were banished to the underworld. When Ragnarok came, their rage was unfurled. Wow. Phonics much, Virginia. Okay. V is for Valkyries. Let me turn the page. V is for Valkyries. These young maidens were dark angels of death, deciding which warriors would take their last breath. Again, it's just, I'm astounded. Torsten's illustrations are just beautiful. W is for waves. 9 sisters lived in the sea, each a powerful wave. They gave birth to Heimdall in an underwater cave. X marks the spot, which is Scandinavia. Vikings came from Scandinavian lands. They raided and traded and made demands. Y is for Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil was a special tree, known for more than just its fruits. All the worlds and realms were held within its branches and its roots. And Z is for zest. 2 humans named Life and Life Zest, hid in the world tree, safe from the rest. And as you know, Z is the end of the alphabet. So then we get into, I provide some information about some Norse connections. Like, for example, did you know that some believe the days of the week are named after Norse gods and goddesses? And then I talk about that. And then some believe that Christmas traditions are connected to Norse myths, and I give some examples. And then I give some examples of some other examples. And then I have a note from the author. And that is it. Oh, the other thing I want to mention too is we have also included a pronunciation key, because there's lots of words, and you knew that I stumbled. So there's lots of words in the text, so there's a pronunciation key here as well, which I probably should have referenced before I started reading as well. So, but anyways, that is T for Thor, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I know I certainly enjoyed that.
Well, Dan and I have a love for nerdy things.
We do.
Prior to going live, Dan and I were talking about our D&D game. So that's I don't know how much nerdier it can get, Dan.
Well, I do have a Darth Vader hanging behind me. I've got nerd stuff over on my left. We can go pretty nerdy and hard if we need to.
That's true. I haven't gotten to Magic the Gathering yet, so I still I'm not a full member of the nerd club, but
Virginia, you wrote a book about Thor. I think you're a daring member.
That's true.
Which is a fantastic read. So, are you ready for some questions?
I am.
Okay. So, when you approached me about Teeth for Thor, I was so excited to see the book. I mean, you should have heard me in my office. Yay! So, can you tell us a little bit more about T is for Thor? Is it going to be part of a series that you're putting together of different like alphabets for mythology?
Well, okay, so we do have, like I mentioned, part of Cherry Lake Publishing is we've got Sleeping Bear Press, which is, produces T is for Thor, and they have a whole alphabet series on a variety of different topics. And then, of course, my Popo's Lucky Chinese New Year, which, I had, Dan had invited me to share at the library, and then my one of the new books before T is for Thor, Neon, the Chinese New Year Dragon. So Sleepy Bear puts out those books, the beautiful trade books, picture books, and then they also have other imprints, School and Marketing. So there's Cherry Lake, and then there's also 45th Parallel Press. So for 45th Parallel Press, and I've written a lot of titles for those, and that's our high. We are aiming to serve the older struggling reader population. So I've got tons of books. You can see my background. Those are all my all my books. So I've got tons of series that I've written for that. So in regard to your question with the myths, so I've written a series of books for Greek gods and goddesses, Norse gods and goddesses, and Egyptian gods and goddesses. And then, this Sleeping Bear Press has a Greek mythology alphabet book as well. So they've got Z is for Zeus. So yeah, I mean, we'll, of course, there's always, if there's a need, we can always push it forward. So there's lots of, and I know that I also just signed a contract to do a alphabet book on Asian American history, which will be coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. I kept that under my hat for a while, so this is the first that I've announced it, but I feel like it's safe to announce because I just I signed the contract, so it's official.
Yay!
But yay!
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we'll have, this is kind of what Sleeping Bear is known for, is doing these beautiful alphabet books. So yeah, I'm sure that it's not going to stop. Won't stop, can't stop, right? I'm sure there's plenty of options. And I know I'm looking at the Facebook Live feed as well, and I know that good friend of mine, Erin Dealey, is here, and she also has a K is for Kinder book with Sleeping Bear Press as well. So that's another alphabet book about starting kindergarten. So there's Dan, if you want it, we can make it happen.
Okay, I'm going to be sending you an entire list.
I'd love it.
We'll collaborate, of course.
Oh, I love that. So speaking of doing more, so you've published many books, and a good amount of those focus on mythology and mythical creatures like T is for Thor. So what is it that draws you to these topics and gives you so much inspiration?
Oh, I love that question. I can talk about this all day. This is part of like mine and Dan's like nerding out, right? But Jessica, so you mentioned, so I do have a series on urban legends. I have a series on monsters, mythical creatures, mermaids and zombies and all this stuff. And I've got a battle royale series that pits Medusa against Hell, and all these fantastical themes. And the reason why they're so important is because I heard this once at a conference, and so I can't remember. I wish I could remember who to cite, but I can't. But anyways, the phrase is our minds are mapped for stories. And, I think that's so true. Like from the beginning, before we had, the internet, which is a world that we can't imagine. I remember a world without the internet, but I know, like we were old enough to do that. But it has changed our lives. But before we had the internet, technology, all this stuff, we had stories. From the early human days, sitting around a hearth, sitting around the fire, when fire actually was the technology, right, was a huge invention. That humans were able to start and manipulate fire was such a big deal. And then you have, this hearth that then creates this community because people are sitting around the fire for warmth. And instead of just staring at each other, they tell stories, they talk. So, we have, from the very beginning, we have stories in our histories and in our blood and in our cultures. And all cultures have stories. And I think that, that's why I'm just so drawn to myths, because myths are actually the explanations for things that people didn't have science to explain, right? So it's like, today we have science, so science tells us why bees fly, why this, why that. But prior to that, people had to, they needed, because we were curious. So we wanted to explain these weird things that were happening. So then they explained it in stories. They explained it in myths. They explained it by imagining monsters. You know, there be dragons, right? So it's like these unexplored worlds where people have never been to, and then they saw these weird creatures and then they became, you know, then there's stories of dragons and mermaids. Like mermaids were really seals in Sirenia, you know. So it's like they have these wonderful I don't know, it's just it's an imaginative explanation for the things that are in our world that we're trying to understand. And then of course now we've got science to explain these things. But you know, I think it's the beginning. We start with story, and then you know, then we lead into science. But I yeah, so I have a really strong connection and respect stories, and cultural stories and myths. And that's why, again, with my book, Neon, the Chinese New Year Dragon, you know, I focused on a Chinese myth about Chinese New Year traditions, when mainly, you know, the dragon, the monster. I mean, I made it into, it's really a Chinese New Year monster, and I made it into a dragon because I love dragons.
Me both.
But yeah, so Jessica, I love that question. I mean, I think that it says a lot. Stories and myths and monsters and mystical, magical things help us explain who we are, you know, as a community and as a society. And it's just, it's, you know, even like, for example, the urban legends, Hookman, right? So you
Yeah.
have some of those stories, the Hookman, like if you go out and you neck in the woods, then you're gonna get, like, Hookman's gonna come and like kill you, right? So it's like these, I mean, I paraphrase, there's so much more to that story. Like I'm putting it in one sentence. There's a lot more to that. But if we think about the origins of even that story, I mean, that story started circulating in the 1950s when cars started to become popular, and teenagers, the birth of the teenagers, you know, the phenomenon of the teenagers came about, and parents were worried about their teenagers having all this freedom versus driving and going out and doing all these things. So then we create these cautionary tales. You know, don't do anything bad or the Hookman's gonna come get you. I mean, we've had these stories, the boogeyman stories have been around forever, right? Like, don't do anything bad or you're gonna get, the boogeyman's gonna come and get you. You know, Santa Claus, you know, what I like, I'm sorry if I'm breaking anybody's bubbles that Santa Claus is a myth, but he is. And you know, so it's like this, we have these stories that you know, I think that that's why I'm so connected to them. And I think it tells us something about ourselves. I mean, I learned a great deal about myself doing T is for Thor. You know, these and I also learned how similar a lot of, you know, because I've been doing a lot of Chinese folk tales, and now doing T is for Thor, being immersed in the Norse folk tales. You know, there's a lot of similarities. And even when I did the Egyptian and the Greeks, it's like, you know, you borrow, it's like we all kind of have the same, there's a universality, a commonality among all these stories. And then each culture, you know, takes out what makes sense to them. And it's also, you know, interesting to tease out, like, why does each culture do that? So I'm fascinated by stories.
All right. Well, I want to jump to a Facebook question we got.
Oh, we got Facebook questions. We have an audience.
Goddess. Yeah, we have an audience. If you were a Norse god or goddess, who would you be?
Who asked that? Oh, of course, Aaron. Okay. So if I were a Norse god or goddess, who would I be? I would be, well, I love, of course, I love Thor. And you know, Thor, and I'm sorry, but Chris Hemsworth is gorgeous. So, you know, I like, there's that. So if, I guess in that way I'd be Sif, so I could be Thor's wife. But like really, in all honesty, the Greek god or goddess, I mean I'm sorry, we're not talking about Greeks. We're talking about Norse. The Norse god and goddess that I would choose is Loki. Because he's fun. I mean, like, to be a trickster, you know, and to play all those pranks, and you know, he switched sides, and he is, you know, he's really a giant, you know, but he grew up in Asgard. And I mean, like, I think I find him to be the most interesting. And I also think it's, you know, it's kind of, it's fun when you're able to make some trouble and he's the troublemaker. And I think also what I like about the Norse, the real Norse gods and goddesses, as opposed to the Marvel universe, right?
Yes.
The real stories. They're also not, it's not good or bad. I feel like our superhero stories today is like you've got the superheroes and the villains. So you've got this good bad type of thing that's happening. I'm drawn to the anti-hero, and I like this Walter White's and from Breaking Bad, for those of you that have not, seen a TV in forever, but like, I like these anti-heroes. Like they're not completely good, they're not completely bad. And I think that's what the Norse gods and goddesses really do. They're not good and they're not bad. And they're dark. That's another reason why I prefer the Norse myths compared to other myths too, because I mean, as you know, Dan, they're dark. The Norse were dark.
They are.
I mean,
that's what makes them fascinating. They're almost more human in a way.
Right. Well, but if you think about like that area, I mean, you are, it's a harsh reality, lots of snow and, food, like it's rocks, mountains, lots of their lands is, food is scarce and, all these things. So it's like they are, of course, going to have darker thoughts.
It makes sense.
So
Absolutely.
Their stories portrayed their cultures. So anyways, there's that.
Okay, we're gonna do stop the Q&A for a real quick moment and do a trivia question to those watching in our Facebook audience so that we can give away one of the generously donated T is for Thor books. So folks, we will ask you to type your answer into Facebook. First person to get it right will win a copy. And so here's our trivia question. Who tried out for the role of Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but got cast as a different character in the Thor movie?
Wow, I don't even know that. Oh, and just to mention, to remind folks too, it's like for the winners of the books, Sleeping Bear wants me to make sure to note that winners have to be in the continental U.S. and we need their address.
Right, and if we designate you as a winner, we'll ask that you email your physical mailing address to myself or Jessica, and then we'll make sure we get it passed on to Virginia. Okay, I will repeat the question for those watching at home. Who tried out for the role of Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but got cast as a different character in Thor? So while we wait for an answer, why don't we move forward with another question for Virginia, and Jessica and I will monitor the chat.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so we want to know, what books did you grow up reading? And for the viewers, if you want to share books that you grew up with reading too, just so we can kind of see. So what books did you grow up reading?
So I was an early reader, thank goodness, because reading, was definitely a way to escape. And I mean, it gives you access to the world, right? So I was an early reader and I was pretty eclectic, and I still am. I pretty much read everything. And I was like that when I was younger as well. So my interest, range. And as a child, I mean, of course, it's like I'm gonna love the Beverly Cleary books and the Judy Blume books, but the books that I remember and that I want to mark as, I would say, my childhood favorite books: Anne of Green Gables, Ella Montgomery, Anne Shirley, Anne with an E. I mean, I had such a love for Anne Shirley, and in fact, I have a creepy closet of Anne of Green Gables stuff. So I liked all anytime I see an Anne of Green Gables book, and I collect the different covers. So I have all those, and then I have, books about Anne of Green Gables and, all this. I have paraphernalia. I have a ton of stuff about Anne of Green Gables, but so I love Anne of Green Gables, and I think I just got, I don't know, I'm just attached to this little orphan girl that found that's eccentric and creative and imaginative, and in this island in Canada. And Anne of Green Gables definitely is one of my favorites, I would say, from childhood. And also a book that meant a lot to me growing up too was In the Year of the Boar, Jackie Robinson by Betty Bayer Lord. And the reason why that's important to me, and it actually has informed and inspired my work today, but I remember and there's a power of teachers. This is another reason why I was a classroom teacher. Teachers are powerful. They put librarians and teachers put books in the hands of children. But I remember that my second grade teacher read aloud In the Year of the Boar and Jackie Robinson. And that was the first time that and I grew up in Fairfax County, Virginia. And that was the first time that I actually in a book saw and heard a character that looked like me, because the main character was a Chinese American girl. And that was powerful. That was really powerful to know that I can be represented in books. And that's why representation and reflection is so important. And, that led, like, my dissertation and my area of expertise is around the Asian American children's literature. So, that has inspired me because I know how powerful it was for me to see those images. And I know that that's something that's important for our generations to come. So, I would say I read everything, but I would say that those two books are the books that stand out to me when people ask me about what my childhood books are. I would say Anakin Gables and The Year of the Boar and Jackie Robinson.
Okay, I am going to read both of those now. I always like hearing what our guests recommend, and I can go and do that. And this actually, you touched upon a little bit what our next question is actually going to be for you. So what is your writing process when you approach your books? Do you have a specific environment that you like to write in, or can you just sit down and write anywhere that you want to?
The answer to your last question is no. I cannot. I am a finicky writer, I guess. I do have to have my space. And I don't know about you, Dan and Jessica, I don't know if this is happening to you, but I also feel like as I get older, I'm only getting more finicky.
I like to call it, I'm getting more grumpy as I age.
Yeah, so it's like, no, I have my space and I have my time. So it's like I've got right now where I'm sitting at is my desk. And so this is pretty much how I operate. I've got my multiple screens happening. And I also have to be cleared, which means that, for example, I block off time to I envy the writers that are able to, like, oh, I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to write like chapter 1. I'm like, what? It takes me like 15 minutes just to sit down, So I need blocks and blocks of time. So I kind of need to spend some time clearing things off my plate in my mind. And then I'm able to sit for hours and write. And once I get started, that's the thing with me. It's like, once I get started, I'm in. But it's getting started that's hard. And I'm also I need deadlines. Yeah. I cannot operate with, like just whenever it's done. Like, okay, well, that might take 20 years. So it's like, I need deadlines. I'm really good at deadlines. I always have been. So deadlines are kind of my thing. And then I write at night. So anyone that has had to, deal with me on the other end of emails know that you're getting emails from me late at night, because that's the time when I can really kind of dedicate some time. I'm more productive. I'm a night owl. I'm also, as you can tell, I'm also a chatty social person. So no one wants me calling them at midnight, right? So that's kind of the time that I have to, be by myself and focus and get to the task at hand. But yeah, I definitely have a system. And again, like I said, I feel like the older I get, the more finicky I get about it. But I envy those authors that are just like, oh, I took a train trip, and during the train I wrote 3. Like, what?
Like, I'm a little jealous myself.
Yeah, I know. I am not one of those people. I have to have my space and my time and things, exactly the way that I want them. So we
had a fun comment from Erin in our Facebook chat. P.S. Virginia does not sleep.
Oh. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like, I'm a late bird. I'm a late bird. I definitely. Well, I also have to say too, I have zero responsibilities for keeping any living things alive. So we don't have children, Jeff and I don't have kids. We do have two dogs, but Jeff takes care of them, So I mean, I get to be, what I like to say is like the weekend dad, right? So I like play, I do all the fun stuff and I play with them, and Jeff's actually responsible for keeping them alive. So I don't have those responsibilities either. So that makes it easier for me to have my, my work responsibilities and my writing, be able to do both. I don't know how moms do it, to be honest. I don't know how parents, moms and dads do it. Those kids are a lot of work.
They are.
And I think for me, it's like you're just constantly worried about. I had my godson with me for a week a couple summers ago, and it was so stressful, not because he was a great kid, but it was so stressful because I'm like, every day, like, are you gonna die today? Like, it's like, I mean, I was so worried. It's like you're keeping, it's so stressful to keep a human being alive. So I would imagine, authors or, folks, workers in general, that, have to also care for other living beings. Like there's a lot to that.
There.
Okay, so let's move on to one of our prepped questions, going back to talking about T is for Thor. What did you enjoy most about writing T is for Thor?
What did I enjoy? Okay, well, I have two answers for that. I have a silly but real answer, and then I have a real answer.
I want the silly answer first.
So my silly but real answer, because this is legitimately what I think, but it's not exactly how I want to answer this question. But like, as I was writing T is for Thor, one of the things I was looking forward to or thinking about was, I was trying to find a way to like have this be kind of a bonding point between me and Chris Hemsworth. Like, I was trying to think, like, how can I use this to get in with him? Like, what can I do? And I know that I had asked my Julia, and I want to give a shout out to Sleeping Bear Press and Julia, my publicist, and of course my editor, Barb McNally. I love you both, and I love Sleeping Bear. But anyways, I sent an email to both my editor and Sleeping Bear publicist, because I had stalked Chris Hemsworth and found his agent, the address and stuff. And there's amazing things you can find on Google Maps. So anyways, I found like where he lived, and so I sent them a note. I'm like, all right, we gotta send them a copy. I want Chris to, we'll do. And then I found in Rancho Bernardo, which, as you all know, is like about 3 exits down from us. In Rancho Bernardo, there's a eye doctor place, and they have, or sunglasses. That's what it was, sunglasses. And I guess Chris is part of doing some like sales for them, whatever. But anyways, there's like a life size cardboard cutout of Chris, like outside that sunglasses place. So I was planning on taking the book and going over there and like, showing that picture and then like Instagramming the heck out of it. But anyway, so that's kind of that was one of my things. Like, how can I use this? How can I parlay this into like, having Chris fall madly in love with me, and then, then I like will be Chris Hemsworth's mistress, I guess, because I still love my husband as well. So I gotta manage that. I figure out how I'm gonna work both. But anyways, so that was my silly thing for T is for Thor. But wait, just to go back, what was your question? Just to make sure I answer it correctly.
What did you enjoy most?
Okay, what did I enjoy most? So I got flustered. I started thinking about Chris Hemsworth. And,
you and me both. I'm just in Chris Hemsworth land right now, so I'll need a minute.
And I know that I've got one of, I was like, I know one of my fans. All right, one of the 14 people watching this show right now is Marilyn Prawl, and I know that Marilyn's also a big fan of Chris Hemsworth as well. I know that I remember when she first watched the Marvel movie, she had texted or emailed me and said, talked about Chris Hemsworth's abs. and asked if they were CGI'd or whatever. I don't know, Marilyn, if you remember that, but I remember that conversation. Okay, but anyways, back to Jessica's question. What did I enjoy most? So, I mean, like I said, I really am captured by this idea of stories and myths and whatever. So I definitely love the Norse. I love how dark the Norse stories can get. And I mean, there's a lot that I did not include in this book that got, way dark. And I think that's what I enjoyed, because I was thinking like there's nuggets. I mean, anytime I think authors write, it's like there's stuff that you include and stuff you don't include. And then, but it's all still good stuff, even the things you don't include, because it possibly could be another story. And Jessica, I think that's where, to answer your questions, is like, I just saw so many possibilities. Like, for example, I'm playing around with a story about how I can make this, kind of turn these ideas into a modern adaptation of some sort. So it's like I just feel like there's so much richness here. And I think that's what's exciting to me, because I think part of being a writer too is also, it's like puzzles. You're solving, in a way, it's like you're solving these problems. You're creating, this world, and you're solving all these problems. And I just feel like there's so much material and content here that I can use for future stories and ideas. And of course, in my head, again, I'm going to go to that first place I went to. In my head, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to write this awesome modern adaptation. I'm going to do this. And then it's going to, like one of the big studios is going to want to pick it up, and it's going to be this blockbuster movie. And then I'm going to ask, because I'm the author, I'm going to ask for Chris Hemsworth to play, the main character, like whatever. So that's how I'm going to meet him. So, it always goes back to Chris Hemsworth.
All roads lead.
That is right.
So then I guess I know the answer to this next question. What do you hope readers take away from T is for Thor? So I guess it's Chris Hemsworth.
Or somehow, if out of all my legions of fans out there that committed to watching this show this morning, my legions of fans out there, if anybody has a connection with him, let me know. I'm in.
But I'm just tickled silly with that.
And Dan, I'll hook you up too.
Yeah. Please do.
We'll team.
I appreciate that. You and me and all the millions of other fans. But seriously, though, when you're writing as an author, for T is for Thor and any of the other books that you've written, what do you hope readers take away when they're done reading something that you've written?
Well, I want them to take away the fact that stories matter. And like, even in all the stories, like T is for Thor, Neon, Paper Sun, and Proposed Lucky Chinese New Year, and not even my books, but anybody's books. I think that there's stories are out there. Stories matter. Your story matters, and they're worth telling. And I don't mean that by I don't think. I mean, and I say this from a perspective of obviously being a published author, and being published is fabulous. It's wonderful. I love being published, but being published is not the only way to tell stories. And especially in today's time, like, we have so many different venues for folks to tell their stories. There's, Facebook Live, there's, YouTube, there's TikTok, there's, my students are, trying to teach me how to do TikTok, so that'd be fun. I just learned how to repost on Instagram, right? So, but anyways, I think that's what I want them to get, that all these stories matter and they live on. Like Norse, these Norse myths have been around for hundreds of years, and they will continue to live on beyond us. And then again, they'll live on in different ways, because I have to yes, these are, of course, I drew my this book from the more original source material, and that's actually a challenge of writing myths, I think. Or writing about myths is because we have to deal with oral retellings and interpretations, because it's like where I can't, what's the original source? What's the primary source? I can't really find that. So, we have to work with the source material that we have. And then I think there's always going to be interpretation by the author. My interpretation is going to be here as well. And so I think that's kind of the what we can walk away to is like there's all these different interpretations, and like for example Marvel, right? And I love the Marvel universe, so I'm a big fan of the original source material, but I also love the Marvel universe. But I also don't take that as real. That's Marvel's interpretation of the Norse myths. It's not the Norse myths. And I think that the fact that we have those opportunities to recycle, upcycle, adapt, like all that stuff, that's really exciting. And that these stories are really universal. I mean, we can take the trickster tale. We go to Loki. I mean, that has been across cultures. So I think I like this idea that we can find ourselves in stories, and we can find commonalities and similarities across stories. So I guess that's what I want people to walk away with, that your stories matter, and that they're part of what makes us human, and they're part of what binds us together as humanity.
That's a really good answer.
I can get serious.
I see. I'm going to be quoting you later for something else. So let's give away another book.
Okay.
So we're going to go with who has the closest birthday, month, and day to Virginia.
So I would have to share mine, right?
Month and day, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So June 14th, I'm Flag Day, baby. So anybody out there, Flag Day? We'll find out.
Okay. Yeah, we will find out. And then
I'm tempted to participate.
Jessica, go for it.
We'll see. I'm not that close. But if I'm the only one,
yeah, if you're, hey, you know what? You got a 50-50 shot for going for it. 100% shot of losing if you don't.
Yes, Jessica has me beat on March 4th.
Oh, Marilyn has me beat.
Marilyn, very good.
Woohoo!
Okay, I think Marilyn may be our winner unless someone else pops up. Okay, and then we're going to, while we wait to see, Virginia, I do a lot of work with graphic novels and comics for literacy. Have you ever considered writing a graphic novel or comic, or working with an illustrator to produce one?
Oh my gosh, I would love. Well, first of all, I just want to say, those of you that don't know, Dan is awesome. So he does a lot of super cool things. And so the comic stuff, and then the D&D. You started the D&D at the Escondido library, things like that. So just want to do a shout out for Dan. Like you're bringing all things nerdy, and making them cool.
I appreciate that. Well, cool, but yes.
But I would love to, Dan. I would love to work on a graphic novel and comic. That would be so much fun. But I say that, and then I also recognize that it's kind of like, just because I use computers doesn't mean I can be an engineer, right?
Right. Yes.
That's what my husband does. Like, he's a software engineer. So I always think, and the same thing that I feel, get out of a teaching background. It's like, and I push against people that think just because you went to school doesn't mean you can be a teacher. So just because I want to write a graphic novel doesn't mean that I can. And although it would be really fun, but I also know that there's a lot of, anytime, all genres takes time, and I think the same thing with picture books. And, Matt De La Pena, who I want to give a shout out to as well. He is, Matt De La Pena is a children's author, and he lives in San Diego. And I did a interview with him with the Union Tribune Festival of Books. And that was thanks to, and I saw that Stacy is, among my 12 fans that are out there, but I saw that Stacy's here too in the comments. I want to give kudos to Stacy from Warwick's. But anyway, Stacy, she had hooked up Dan and I for this interview. So thanks a lot, because that was a really great interview. And you know, Dan and I mean, no, I'm sorry, Dan and I. What was his name again? Matt and I.
I'll still take credit, but yes.
I know. Matt and I had talked about in that interview about picture book writing and how people, you know, think that, oh, picture books are so easy. You know, I've read picture books, like whatever, it's so easy, they can't do it, and you know, they can do it. But then again, that's like picture books are actually probably the hardest thing to write, because you have to have character and plot development in under 1,000 words, and now even under 500 words. And then you know, it's just it's a lot more complicated. So just because you read picture books doesn't mean that you are going to be able to write one. And even people that think that they read them, like they read a book or two to the kid and all of a sudden they're an expert. It's like, I mean, when I am doing a picture book, I read a lot of books in that genre to study it. You know, so it's just like I would for anything else. Just because I do it, I don't expect to, you know, be the expert in it. So the same thing with graphic novels. I understand what it takes. And especially with, I feel like there's that relationship between the illustrator and author, because I have that too with the picture book in a different way for graphic novels.
Yes.
But with the picture books, you know, like we have to, because words matter so much, it's like we work with the illustrator in our heads, not in person. Because those of you that don't know this world, you don't, the illustrator and authors do not collaborate. They when the writer writes it, and then the publishing house chooses the illustrator, and then the illustrator sits with the work for months and does it, and there's no collaboration. And they don't like that, actually, because the book is half, I mean, this book is half Torstein. You know, he has really enhanced and empowered it with the illustrations, and it was beyond what my my little Mega brain could have accomplished. Like, he did so much more, and he needed that freedom and space to be the artist that he is. So the same way, you know, but I had to think about, and with picture books, you do think about this as an author. You think about, okay, do I need to say this, or can it be told in illustrations? And I think the same thing with graphic novels. You know, so it's like you have to kind of work as an author, you have to work knowing that there are things that can be shown. And then you know, you cut back on that. And also it's like, I think with graphic novels, like picture books, we have to work on turning the page, right? It's like, so like, what is, you can't have 6 scenes in a kitchen room table in the kitchen. So it's like, right, you got to turn the page. So the comics and the graphic novels are even harder, because you got to turn the panels, right? Yes. Like each panel has to move. So knowing, I mean, I know basics, but I don't know enough for me to say, oh yeah, Dan, tonight I'm going to write a graphic novel. I'm going to expect to be famous for it. You know, like I don't. But if I do, I think that would be awesome. But I also know that that would be stretching myself. But you know, I think if you know, yes, if I really wanted to, then I should put great effort into trying. And you know, I could, but I think that's the key word, is I'd have to put in great effort. It's not something that just because I read them, I'm able to do them. And you know, you know, it's funny, I think about it in this way too, is like with let's say acting, movies, and I love movies, I love film. We can talk about Netflix and films and stuff all day, because I love that. I also watch a lot of like good stuff and dumb stuff. I watch it all. But you know, I always think like, oh, it'd be fun to be in the movies, etc. And I'm hammy, in case you haven't noticed. You know, I'm hammy, and I'm not shy, and I'm social, and I'm out there, blah blah blah. But I'm a horrible actress. Horrible. Like you know, I thought that I'd be good because I have these qualities, you know, and then like you put me, like I had to do something where I had to do a little bit of acting. I mean, it was like really no big deal. It was nothing. I mean, I think it was like a homegrown movie, like nothing. It was nothing. But I couldn't do it. And then I realized, just because I watch movies and just because I have like personality traits, this is not me. Like I realize like my role, if I were to be in movies, my role is like the extra, like the zombie in Walking Dead. You know, it's like I'm not, like I'm in the back, I'm an extra, and I'm fine with that. Like I'm not going to be. So Chris Hemsworth, if you're out there, I'm willing to be like one of your extras somewhere. But you know, so I would love to do a graphic novel. But I think I would be stepping out of my area, and I'd have to put in great effort to learn.
That is a wonderful answer, and I think there's a lot we can take from that too. Like no matter what you pursue, you have to put a lot of great effort into it so you succeed,
Right.
whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we give away another book?
Okay.
So we are going to do, for those that are still with us in the chat, ask the best question for Virginia now. We want some good ones. Then
in the meantime.
And in the meantime, while we wait, Jessica, do you want to ask her the next question, or shall I?
The next question's gonna be the who wore it better. So that's also gonna have people commenting. So
Okay. I see nothing yet.
don't overthink it, people. First thing that comes to your head.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right.
Favorite color, favorite
Yeah.
animal.
We got one more book to give away. I think we gave one book to Huang, right?
Yes.
Who's, by the way, one of my wonderful students at San Diego State.
Aww.
And then
Marilyn.
Marilyn, right? Okay. And Marilyn is a super good friend of mine. In fact, she helps with my creepy Anna Green Gables closet. She's not a fan of Anna Green Gables, and when she gives me stuff, she'll say, I hate to be feeding this fire, but here. But she helps. She's an enabler.
We just had a wonderful question come in.
Okay.
From Aaron. Does it help that I just tagged Chris Hemsworth on Twitter for you?
Of course. Of course. Well,
We've been tagging him a lot too.
Oh my God. He's gonna be like, who is this crazy lady? And why does she keep talking about me? We have a question from Moni.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing about being a writer? Well, my favorite thing about being a writer, well, okay, I got a silly response for that one. And then I have to think about a real response, but my silly responses are my real responses. But my silly response to what's my favorite thing about being a writer is that I can basically do that job, in my pajamas with no bra and no pants. I mean, that's like, how many jobs can you do that? Like, I love it. And it's great deal of freedom and creativity. So yeah, that's been fun. But I mean, really a fun part about being a writer is the fact that I've been able to meet so many different people from across the nation, and it's put me into circles that I normally would not have been in, because having spoken at various different conferences and keynoting and all these different experiences, I've been able to take part in them as an author. I mean, no one cares. I also have research that I do, right? And I also have research articles, like academic articles and books, but no one cares about that. I have way more interest for my children's books than my research, which is fine. But so it has definitely put me in a different world, and I have enjoyed I get to meet and hang out with wonderful librarians like Dan and Jessica. I will say, like, just a quick, and this is a serious comment that I have, but public libraries and school libraries, OMG. I just want to say how important it is to support our libraries in general. And, I know that my school libraries and my public libraries saved me, literally saved me. Like, I had a tough childhood, and, libraries were always a place I could go to escape and to learn and to read, and also to get some air conditioning, and so, like, I just, and again, the power of librarians. I can't tell you how many times it was a school librarian that actually put Anna Green Gables in my hands. And I remember,
she was the first enabler.
What's that? That's right. Yeah, that's right. She's the first enabler. But it's like, I think that the power of libraries and the power of librarians, I just, kudos to you and your work. And I feel like we have to strongly fight to make sure to keep these, services alive and well. And I know that the Escondido Public Library has been doing a lot. I go once a week at least to do, when curbside pickup was available, I was so excited about that. Oh, and shout out to Vincent. He is he's my dude. He always helps me. He brings out my stuff. But the curbside pickup has been such a joy. And then, of course, now the Escondido Library is going to be opening on Monday, and that's exciting. So, but I can't tell you how valuable libraries are to us as humans, but also as a writer, because that's how I do a lot of my research is from, using the library resources. So, yeah, I forgot how I got here.
Hey, that's okay.
How did we start? Oh, writers, like what I love about writing. Yes, so I get to meet, wonderful people like Jessica and Dan. And we get to support this thing that we love, which is reading. So that's been exciting about being a writer.
And we have two more questions.
Sure.
So Alice is asking, what made you decide to write children's books?
So actually it was I've always written. I tell this story often, but it's like, I remember, I got Best Writer Award in 6th grade. I would make my own newspapers, tried to sell them, made zero money. I remember making a deal with my 4th grade teacher where, you take a bunch of papers together and I'd staple them. And I was like, if I write this book and it becomes published, can I get an A in 4th grade? And then, of course, my teacher was like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid, right? And now, like, having taught, of course, I realized, like, the teacher was basically, like, banking on the fact that's never happening. So it's like, what? Like, she can make that deal? Sure, no problem. But, I remember writing, writing different things. And I never really, I did have one of my first publications. Here's a fun fact. I don't know if you know this, Dan. Dan and I have go way back. We go way back.
Quite a number of years now.
Yeah. So anyway, so Dan, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but did you know I used to write a single in San Diego column?
No, I did not know that. I had no idea.
So actually, one of my first bylines was I wrote for an Asian newspaper, a local Asian newspaper, and I had a single in San Diego column. So that was really fun. And it was, Sex and the City was popular, so it was like basically a takeoff that, but Asian American style, So
we need to find these.
Yes, we do.
They're out there, but like I had great fun doing that. So that was one of my first bylines. But I always thought it was gonna be for fun, like I never really thought anything of it. I just thought I'll do these things and they're fun. And I always had my teaching job, and now I've got my San Diego State job, which I love. And I'm not ready, I'm not ready to give up my day job yet. But I started when I was teaching, actually, because the classroom is like the heartbeat, right? Like you have so many stories there because the students are, they're funny. I can remember my teaching K through 8th. They are freaking funny. They just, all the stuff that comes up. I can just tell stories. But anyways, so you've got a gold mine of stories there. And I had a good friend of mine and co-author of my first book, The Jade Dragon, Carolyn Marsden. She had already had several books with Candlewick. And one day at a Christmas party, I was telling her about some of my stories growing up, and she said, these are great stories, we need to write about them. And I was like, okay, and I didn't think about it. And then she had contacted me and said, we need to meet, let's write these stories up. So then we did, and then it became The Jade Dragon with Candlewick, and that was in 2008. So that was my first book. And then it's like, then one thing led to another, and it's just one thing led to another. And I think my biggest thing is I don't say no. Like anytime, they're like, Virginia, you want to do this? Yeah, sure, let's do it. So it's just, then I got into writing the imprint with 45th Parallel Press, and so it's just, things just kept happening. And now it's like I do feel like this could be a livelihood. But it's taken a long taken a long time. But yeah, I guess I guess that's what it is. It's just there's inspiration and you move forward and you made it happen, and then here you are. And now, honestly, and Dan and I were talking a little bit about this before we went live, but I'm also thinking about pursuing the adult market too. So we'll see. I love murder mysteries. So I thought about doing that as well, but I think I'm like, that's another thing, is like I have to learn more. And I have to put in great effort. I think I might be more my voice and etc. I think it's more designed for memoirish type of writing. But I would love to have a murder mystery series. That would be so much fun. And like, for example, I know that Marilyn, I think she's still out there, but if Marilyn's still out there, Marilyn and I have a love for Louise Penny. Do you guys know Louise Penny?
Yes.
So Still Life and her Inspector Gamache. Oh my God. If I could be the Asian American Louise Penny, I would love it. And that she's funny. Like, I feel like you think from reading her books, she'd be serious and whatnot, but then like we've gone to a couple shows of hers. She is funny. So it's like so I would love to. I have a lot of interest. So I just need time and a deadline. I need somebody out there. If you want me to do these things, give me a contract and a deadline. I'll do it. That's how I get stuff done.
Okay, so we have one more Facebook, and then we got to get to the who wore it better, and then our closing question. So the last Facebook question before you choose the best Facebook question is from Maria. Do you make a storyboard for yourself or artists to reference?
So no. I know that there are picture book authors that do that. We call it, making a dummy, which is an awful word, right? But you make a dummy, which is essentially a storyboard, and you map it out that way. So I don't really start that way, but I know that that's probably good practice. And that a lot of picture book authors do that. So, but I don't necessarily, that's not typically what I do. But I do think, I have these thoughts in my head about like what it looks like, so I can make sure that like I said before, turn the page. But it's also a lot of cutting, like when you're writing picture books, you have to cut a lot of words. And then so you have these images that pop up in your mind instead. And sometimes, and I want to stress the word sometimes, because sometimes just means not a lot, because you really don't want to do this. But sometimes, like when it's super essential, I'll have an illustrator note, but I really understand how this works, and I understand that it is half the illustrators. So, and I'm curious and delighted, and that's why, like, literally, as I was reading aloud, for y'all, in this Q&A that we're doing, it's like when I was looking at the pictures, I was literally getting like, wow. And I've seen them a ton of times. So it's not like I haven't seen the pictures. I have, but it's just, they're just amazing. And I felt the same way with Paper Sun, with Wilson Ong, with Renee Benoit, with Chinese New Year, and of course with Timothy Banks with Neon. Every single time the illustrators they just impress me. I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled with what they did, and it is like me. It's like reading it for the first time again. So it's exciting to see how they interpret the words. So I don't give a lot of illustrators notes. I trust my publishing house, and I've been lucky to be with Sleeping Bear Press. So shout out to Sleeping Bear Press. I trust Sleeping Bear Press completely, 100%. And my editor has not ever, done me wrong. Again, I've got two editors, Mark McNally and Sarah Rocket, and they're just fabulous. But they have been wonderful, that whole team. So I trust them explicitly, and I trust that whoever they choose to be my illustrator as well, and I just know it'll work out. It'll be great. So so I don't really do the storyboard process, but I do know how I do in my head think about, you know, turning the page. That's something that I'm always thinking about. And then I do map out, when I guess when you say storyboard, I do map out like the text, but I'm not an illustrator. I'm going to be the first person to acknowledge that. So I'm not an illustrator, so I don't get into that world. So I don't illustrate it, but I map out the text so that I make sure that I'm within, you know, the typically picture books are 32 pages, so the 32 spread. I map that out. But no, I don't have a storyboard in terms of the illustrations, and I just trust the process. And I have, you know, I've learned that I want to be surprised. I guess it's like giving birth, even though I've never given birth, right? But I feel like it's like giving birth, like, you know, like, is it a boy, is it a girl? You know, like, there it is, yay. It happened. So, you know, I think that's part of it, is I'm okay. I trust the illustration process. I trust my house. I trust, you know, I have not been steered wrong so far. I've been thrilled.
Excellent.
So now we have to choose, of the 3 questions, the best questions so that we can decide the winner.
Let's do Moni Barrett.
Wonderful. So email Dan.
Yes.
Who's Moni? Who's Moni Barrett? Do you know her, or is she? No?
Yes. She's a good friend of mine.
Oh, there we go. So good friend of Dan.
Yes. She used to work with us at the Escondido Public Library.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, then that's perfect. Yay.
Wonderful, wonderful lady. And a really good question.
Exactly. Oh, so that makes sense. That's how she knows Vincent then.
Yes, she had some great little comments after your question as you were talking too.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
She basically, you're a woman after her own heart for the silly answers.
Oh.
Excellent.
Okay.
Is
So
it
now
break
comes
time?
to our rate the best version of Thor, or who wore it better. So this is when we're going to use our little hammers.
Yay. And I picked up my hammers yesterday. Vincent gave it to me, actually.
So viewers, I'm going to show 2 photos, and then you're going to vote on who you think wore it better. And for the 3 of us, basically we have 5 of these, and you can use them all for one or give a certain amount for the other, but that way you can't have equal points for each one. So I'll show them both so people can see them both, and then I'll put one up and people can vote. Okay, so this is who wore it better. So this is the first.
Oh God, 5.
Okay, this is the second.
Oh, cute dog. This is tough.
Good old
I know,
Thor.
right? So here we go. So we have Chris Hemsworth as Thor. We have Thorgy.
Oh, dogs are, yeah, that's
It's
not
so
fair.
hard.
It really is.
That's not fair. You got the dog there, but I think you know where my votes are going to be.
Yes. So I'm thinking it's going to be 5 for Chris Hemsworth.
I'm like 3 for Chris Hemsworth and then 2 for Thorgy because I can't help it. I just love the corgis. Even with those points, Chris Hemsworth still wins. But
Now, see, what needs to happen is they need to do a buddy spin-off movie with Thor and Thorgy going around. So there needs to be like a dog version of Loki. I don't have to be off my head. Actually, maybe it would be
Loki's a cat.
Yes.
So there is Low Kitty and Thorgy. If you look this up online, you will see all of the photos, and they are so worth it. So worth it.
You know what would be a fun challenge? I do have to say, it's like we've all watched Marvel, right? We've seen the Marvel movies, yeah. So I think I'm actually okay. Yes, Chris Hemsworth is great, but I actually like Fat Thor.
Good old dad bod Thor.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing.
And I think what I like about the Marvel, it's funny, especially the Ragnarok one. Like, it's funny, and when you know the Norse stories, which are so dark, and then you have this sense of humor. And I know I can't. I'm going to say his name wrong, but what's the director? Takiki. What?
I think it's Tahiti. I had it. It's got. I know exactly who you're
I
talking
know, but
about.
so him, like he's so funny. Like where I don't. Have you seen the Wildebeest?
I haven't seen that one.
That is awesome. Like all his movies, Jojo Rabbit. I mean, they've all been hilarious. I love his sense of humor. So then he brings that into the Thor world, and I love it. And that's I'm fan. I know that this whole thing has been like an hour and a half of me fangirling over Chris. But I think the other reason he's nice to look at for sure. But he's also like he's funny.
He is.
I think he does well with comedy. Comedy. Like I don't know if everyone can pull that off, but he can. Like he is funny.
He really is. I've enjoyed definitely that third Thor movie. Really sealed him as an amazing actor.
Yeah. No, he's great. So I feel like we almost should have. That would be a hard one. It's like that picture that Jessica showed versus Fat Thor. That would be hard for me.
No, I totally get it.
I don't know if I would be. I have to tear one of your hammers in half. I think it'd be equal.
They're laminated. You might have to cut them.
All
Okay,
right.
so we have one of our last questions, and we have the closing questions. This is the question you kind of already talked about it, but this is the question I ask at the end of every chat, and it's my favorite question. So, what is your favorite library memory?
Oh gosh. I mean, I kind of feel like I shared it with the school librarian giving me the Anne of Green Gables. But let me think if what's another one. My favorite library memory. Gosh. I feel like there's so many. I mean, I could just in terms of just being able to hang out, like there's nothing like you know what? I will say this. This is not. I was trying to go a different route. Like I was trying to think of. Well, in my head, of course, like I was trying to think of something funny. But I'm not gonna go for funny. I'm gonna go for nostalgic. But I think like one of my favorite memories is when I'm at the public library, and you're at the school library, and you get how the rules are, right? You can get you check out 2 books a week, and then you bring it in, and then you get 2 more, right? So there's a limit, 2 books. I was in the library all the time because I was, of course, reading so quickly. So I before and after school, it was open for like an hour. So I remember like running to make sure that I would get there so I could exchange books. Okay, so there's that. And then when I got introduced to the public library system, and then I remember I'm checking out these books, and I'm being really careful. I have all my books out, and I'm being really careful because now I am trying to parse down to 2 books because I thought it was the same rules. So I've got all these, like I spent all this time, all this morning, like collecting all the books that I wanted, and then I put them out on the table, and I'm trying to decide between the 2 books I'm going to choose for this week. And I could only go like where the school library I was able to go every day because we were at school, like the public library, because I'm like, I don't know, 8, so I had to be driven there. So I couldn't go all the time, so I had to make it count, right? So then I remember like sitting there, and I was sitting there for a while, and I'm trying to decide what are the 2 books that I'm using, and I think I feel like a librarian must have came over and felt sad for me, like what is this sad Asian American girl doing here, like, so she came over and she's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm trying to choose the 2 books that I want for this week, and she's like, 2 books? I'm like, yeah, because I can only have 2 books. She's like, what? Who said you can only have 2 books? I'm like, well, that's how it works at my library. She's like, honey, you can check out as many books as you want. And I remember being like, what? What is this magic you're talking about? I can check out as many as I want. And she's like, yeah, check out as many as you want. If you can carry it, you can have it. And then I just remember being like, oh my God, this place is like Disneyland. you know. So like I checked out as many books as I wanted, and then I came back the next week and did the same. So it's like I just remember that being a really powerful memory, like when I realized, wow, like this is a magical place. And I didn't have to pay for any of the books. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the other thing too. It's like not only could I have as many as I want, there was no price. So I like how, I mean, hello, like how can it get any better than that?
Probably not. No. I mean, if it was a Chris Hemsworth led library.
That's right. He unfortunately he wasn't even born yet when I was 8 years old, making that discovery.
All right. So, a couple quick other questions for you as we wrap up here. What's next for you?
Gosh, what's next? What is next for me? Well, so again, Dan and I were joking a little bit before the show. You know, I was I'm actually giving some serious thought, and there's a difference between that. So I'm going to say I'm giving some serious thought. I have not done much effort. So there's no effort, but there's serious thought to perhaps on Facebook. And so, you know, Dan and I were talking about this earlier too. So on Facebook, I have, you know, I like to make fun of my husband a lot. So I have all these anecdotes that I share about like me and Jeff and our dogs. Basically, if you follow me on Facebook, which please do, but you're gonna get a lot of jokes about my husband and a lot of pictures about my dog. So just warning. I feel like, you know, I've been getting a lot of reactions from my anecdotes with my husband. So I've been giving some serious thought about maybe turning that into something like a memoir, or I don't know, something. Don't know exactly what that would look like, but that could be fun. And again, like, of course, I said that I've got my alphabet book from Sleeping Bear, another one coming out on Asian American history. So that is coming out in a couple years. And then, you know, and I definitely want to work on a murder mystery series with an Asian American heroine. And I can't decide quite yet if, and again, Dan, these are serious thoughts. No
Yes.
effort. No effort. But, you know, I'm playing around with whether or not that would be like a mid-grade or an adult. I'm skipping the whole YA. I was like, I don't think I want to make that YA. I think I want to play, I think I want to do mid-grade or adult. And then, you know, of course, I've got more 45th Parallel Press books coming up as well for the, you know, my High-Low series. So that's always fun to do those books. So yeah, no, it's can't stop, won't stop, right? I mean, there's more stuff for sure coming. But I'd also like to try out different genres and kind of try out different things. I don't think I'm quite ready for the graphic novel world,
Yes.
although that like interests me greatly. I just don't think that I don't think that I'm there. But and not because I don't want to be, just because I don't think that that's where, I don't think they want me.
I know they're lost, in my opinion.
That's right. But yeah, so I'm open to whatever comes my way. But yeah, I guess that's what's, oh, the other big thing that's next, and this, I was concentrating on my writing world, but what's next, I am thrilled. This summer, I accepted the position as the inaugural faculty director of the APITA Center, the Asian Pacific Islander Daisy American Center at San Diego State. And it's the, you know, it's the newest identity center to be on campus. And I'm thrilled to be able to establish it and start it up. And so I'm really, I mean, it speaks to a lot of my interests in terms of the Asian American advocacy and, you know, supporting students, etc. So I'm super excited about that work as well. So there's that. Shout out to the SDSU APITA Center.
That's amazing.
It is.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
And then,
just because you mentioned really quick your interest in mystery, in October and November, we are having some mystery authors on for our virtual author chat series. So I don't know if that would interest you.
Yeah.
But we'll have them on there, and it's like an instant. You can just ask whatever you want, just like this chat. People can ask you.
Yeah, super.
Green
Well,
High.
so promote that more. So who are the authors that are coming?
Let me bring it up. We have a panel. It's on our Eventbrite, and it should be also on our Facebook events.
Okay.
So all of our upcoming ones are put up there. And let's see. So I'm pretty sure it's Kel Garrett, Rachel Housel Hall, her new book, and Now She's Gone is just come out, and then Valerie Wilson Wesley. So those are going to be the October. And I'll have to find the November ones. I don't have them all memorized because we just have so many.
But that's fantastic. And I think, again, what Escondido Public Library is doing with these virtual author chats, especially in, these times, is fantastic. I'm just so honored to be a part of this, and I'm thrilled that I was invited. I'm thrilled I made the cut.
You did. And you're our first children's author, no less.
Yay! Yeah. And Dan, neither one of us did any cuss words, so we were actually going to look up some Norse cuss words to say.
But then we thought better of it. We didn't want to give Jessica heart palpitations that she had to edit.
So we were somewhat well behaved.
Yes, as much as we could be, but now there's something about good trouble.
That's right.
All right. I think we're pretty much towards the end of this, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
But Virginia, where can readers find you, and where can they get your books?
So that when you asked me that, I was just, again, I had like all these stalking things in my head, like, well, there's all these ways you can stalk me. So where can people find me? So I am on social media. So I've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So definitely find me there. And of course, my books can be bought anywhere books are sold. I want to make sure to do a big shout out and promotion for our independent bookstores, especially Warwick's in La Jolla. I know that Stacey Hare, she, is basically my main connection at Warwick. She's the children's buyer, and she's fabulous, and she's a big supporter of me, and I appreciate her dearly. But if we can support our local bookstores, that would be fantastic. But also, of course, books are also sold on Amazon and directly Barnes & Noble as well, and then directly from Sleeping Bear Press. So anywhere, if you want to buy books, we can hook you up.
We'll find a way.
Yeah, that's right. That will not be a problem. And of course, my books can be checked out at the Escondido Public Library.
Yes, we do. We have pretty much every book Virginia has published, I think, or very darn near close to it. They're excellent.
You know what? I should go. Oh, Monday. Yeah, maybe I'll come in. I'll sign some books for you, so you have them. You have them signed at the library. But yeah, no. So please, use public library system, independent libraries. I mean, independent bookstores, wherever.
It's all good. Jessica, you want to take us out?
Do you want to read your little bit, or do you want me to read it all?
Oh, I thought we had. Oh, there's more of a script. Haha! I just had to scroll the page down. I thought we were at the end. It's been a day.
It's okay. Even Thor makes mistakes.
Yes, quite good ones. All right, so if you are interested in more online programming like this, don't forget to check out our Facebook events to see all of our fun and free digital events that we have planned. We are also opening the library again for limited in-person services hours beginning Monday, September 21st. Those hours will be Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 p.m. And yeah, check out our website for more information. We're looking forward to seeing folks back.
Yes, we're happy to have people back. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. Thank you to Virginia. Thank you to our viewers for participating, and those that won books, congrats. We hope to see you here again September 25th for our next live virtual author chat. featuring authors Alexis Daria, author of You Had Me at Hola, and Mia Sosa, author of The Worst Best Man. And if you get a chance, if you could fill out our virtual program survey, it is in the description of this event, and also I just put it in the comments just to let us know if you had fun, if you want us to do more of these. It gives us evidence so that we can have more author chats. So yeah, thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, thank you.